Let me tell you a story. Recently, I arrived on yet another business trip to a small, forgotten provincial town, one of those places that seemed permanently stuck between decades. I checked into a modest hotel with flickering hallway lights, tossed my bag on the bed, and decided to take an evening walk to clear my head. The town was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that feels thick, almost physical. I walked along the narrow streets, enjoying the cool air and the smell of wet soil after a recent drizzle. Gravel crunched under my shoes. The dim street lamps buzzed above me like dying insects. Then I heard it. A raspy, broken voice called out to me from somewhere in the dark. At first, I didn't see the man. Just a shape leaning against a crooked lamppost, shoulders hunched, breathing raggedly. He sounded drunk, maybe homeless. He asked for money, just a bit, he said. Enough to get warm. I've never been a stingy person, and my mood was decent, so I reached into my pocket without thinking. The night was too dark to make out his face, and honestly, I wasn't really looking. I just wanted to help. But when he stepped closer, when the yellow light finally touched him, I felt every muscle in my body tense. I had never seen a face like his. Not even in nightmares. Two massive, jagged scars tore through his cheeks, running from the corners of his mouth all the way to his ears. They weren't neat surgical cuts. These looked ripped, as if someone had taken a pair of hands and pulled. His skin was a lattice of smaller scars, old and new, crossing one another like a chaotic map of pain. But the worst part wasn't the scars. It was the expression they forced onto him. That permanent, monstrous grin. A smile that wasn't a smile, too wide, too stiff, frozen by damaged facial nerves into something inhuman. His eyes didn't match the grin. They were dull, cold, flat, as if something behind them had long since died. I handed him the money with a shaking hand, muttered something, and walked away as fast as I could without running. My heart hammered in my chest the whole way back to the hotel. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that face again. The torn cheeks, the unnatural grin, the way he looked at me as if he wanted to say something else but physically couldn't. I kept wondering what could have done that to a person. A knife? An animal? Something worse? I've seen people with injuries before. Life happens. Accidents happen. But this was different. This was intentional. Cruel. Wrong. It felt like staring into the eyes of something carved by violence, not just harmed, but transformed into a warning. The next morning, over coffee, I casually asked a colleague, one of the locals, if he knew the man. He froze for a moment. Then he let out a breath as if deciding whether to tell me anything at all. "Oh, that's Sam," he said quietly. "Yeah. Sam." He paused again. His eyes drifted to the window, as if checking who might be listening. "That's a long story," he added finally. "I'll tell you over lunch. But, don't go wandering around at night again. Not here." The way he said it made my skin crawl. Lunchtime finally came, and my colleague kept his word. We sat down in a dim corner of a small cafe, the kind where every piece of furniture felt older than the town itself. He leaned closer, lowered his voice, and began his story. What follows, I'll tell you exactly as he told me. Sam, he said, used to be the pride of this town. Handsome, painfully handsome. Every girl chased him, every guy wanted to be him. But don't let the looks fool you. His soul was darker than coal. Arrogant, cruel, always surrounded by the same pack of jackals who cheered on everything he did. Together they broke dozens of hearts, destroyed relationships just for fun, and tormented anyone who wasn't blessed with beauty or status. He sighed and stirred his coffee, as though trying to dissolve something bitter inside himself. But one incident changed him. Changed everything. He paused. You see, a woman moved to our town a few years back. She brought her 16-year-old son with her, a boy named Britt. He had autism, and some physical limitations too. Quiet kid. Harmless. Liked to sit in the sandbox with the younger kids, watching them play. He laughed when they laughed, clapped when they threw sand at each other. Just, innocent. One day, he continued, the kids were tossing sand around, you know how children are. One of them got sand in his eye, started screaming bloody murder. Britt didn't understand what was happening. The noise terrified him. He curled up in a corner, hands over his ears, shaking. And that, my colleague tapped a finger on the table, was the exact moment Sam and his gang walked by. The crying kid was Sam's nephew. I felt my stomach tighten. A normal person, he said, would check if the boy was okay. Would maybe ask what happened. But Sam took one look at Britt, saw him rocking and scared, and decided he was the culprit. Before anyone could stop him, he ran over and kicked Britt in the ribs. I clenched my jaw. And his friends, my colleague, scoffed. They stood around laughing, placing sarcastic bets on who would win. A grown man versus a terrified disabled boy. He looked away for a moment, as if ashamed to even retell it. Britt's mother heard the commotion and ran out. Begged them to stop. Sam hit her too. Hit her so hard she fell. Then he leaned down and threatened her, told her to keep her freak inside, or next time would be worse. He didn't call him a child. He didn't call him anything a human should be called. I won't repeat the words. He exhaled deeply, then continued. Weeks passed. One afternoon, while his mother went to the store, Britt wandered outside and got lost. He walked the streets alone, confused, until, fatefully, he crossed paths with Sam's gang again. My colleague's voice grew tight. They surrounded him. One held him from behind, the others took turns kicking him, shoving him, mocking him. And the people passing by? Nothing. Not even a glance. Like cruelty was just another mundane part of this town. He paused. Until the old Romani woman stepped in. She saw what was happening and shouted at them. Told them to stop, that they were cowards. They spat curses at her, every foul word you can imagine. They told her to get lost, or she'd join him. But she didn't leave. He swallowed. She stepped back, reached into her bag, and pulled out a small container of water. She opened it and began chanting, loudly, fiercely, words I couldn't recognize. Not a language I've ever heard. The boys froze for a second. Just long enough for Britt to slip from their grasp. Then she splashed them, every last one of them, with that water. They lunged at her, but luck, if you can call it luck, wasn't on their side. A police patrol turned into the street at that exact moment. The boys scattered like rats. And the old woman, he said, leaning even closer, yelled after them, her voice echoing down the road. Your time is short. All of you. But you, Sam. You will receive a gift you'll never forget. He went silent for a long moment. People laughed about it, he said quietly. Joked that she cursed them. Nobody took it seriously. Then he looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen on his face before. There were 5 of them, my colleague continued, voice low. 5 friends who thought they were invincible. Thick as thieves. Always together. Always causing trouble. Until fate caught up with them. What happened next, people still whisper about. He took a breath. 2 days after the incident with Britt, the first one died. A train ran him over. They said it looked like he just laid down on the tracks. The impact tore off his head and both legs. No witnesses. No explanation. The investigation called it suicide. My colleague shook his head. But everyone who knew him swore he was terrified of trains. He would never have gone near the tracks willingly. The second one died in his sleep. Just never woke up. A massive heart attack, the doctor said. But he was 20 years old. Played football. Never smoked. Not a single risk factor. He paused. His face, they said, was twisted in horror. Like he'd seen something in his final second. The third one, my colleague grimaced. He got drunk. Fell asleep with a cigarette. The mattress caught fire. He burned alive. Stayed a week in the hospital before dying. They said the screams could be heard from the street. The fourth didn't die quickly. His skin started rotting. Necrosis. Doctors had no idea why. It spread through his limbs, his face, his torso, until he was unrecognizable. A year later, he died in agony. Some people said the smell from his hospital room could make you faint. He looked at me with hollow eyes. And then there was Sam. The only one left. By then, he was a shell of himself. Jumped at every whisper. Flinched at shadows. Walked around like the air itself was hunting him. He leaned closer. What Sam told my colleague, he told it himself. Word for word. Sam's story. I never believed in curses, Sam had said, his voice trembling. Never believed in magic or fate or any of that crap. But watching every one of my friends die, within a year, all of them, after what we did that day, I knew something was wrong. Something was coming. I tried to find the old Romani woman. Asked around. Checked every camp, every outskirt. She was gone. No one even remembered seeing her. Then, one night, he swallowed audibly before continuing. I couldn't sleep. Haven't slept well in months. And suddenly, someone tapped on my window. I froze. My apartment is on the 5th floor. There's no balcony. No ledge. No fire escape. Nothing a person could stand on. But the tapping continued. Tap. Tap, tap. Then louder. Thump. 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 For 30 minutes, Sam whispered. 30. Full minutes. The knocking kept getting louder. Stronger. Angrier. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. I felt, watched. Like whatever was outside already knew what I had done. Knew everything. I wasn't afraid of dying at that moment. His hands shook. I was afraid of seeing what was knocking. The second night, Sam whispered, it happened again. The tapping. The scratching. The slow dragging of something across the glass. As if whatever it was letting me know it hadn't gone away. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the old Babka, the local healer. She was the only person I thought might know something, anything. She listened. Didn't interrupt once. Then she looked at me like I was already dead. What was done to you, she said, cannot be undone. Romani curses of this kind, you don't break them. You survive them, if you can. And if someone tries to remove it, the curse will cling to them instead. She told me the only thing I could do was close every door and window every night before sleep. Ritual-like. Methodical. Because while I was doing it, while I was sealing myself in, it couldn't enter. Not forever, she clarified. just for that night. So I did it. Every night I triple-checked every latch, every frame. And still, the knocking returned. For a week straight. Every midnight. Always the window. Then, suddenly, it stopped. I stopped hearing it. I stopped seeing shadows under the door. Eventually, I almost convinced myself it had all been in my head. But I kept the vent window closed. Always. One night, Sam continued, I came home late. Real late. Exhausted. And it was hot, unbearably hot. I told myself it would be fine to open the window for just a few minutes. Just to let the air in. I planned to close it before bed. But I didn't make it that far. I lay down on the couch to watch TV, and passed out. The next thing I remember is waking to a faint noise. A dragging, scraping sound. Something was clawing at the window. In that moment, I remembered. I remembered the curse. I remembered the Bobka's warning. And I tried to jump up and shut it. But I couldn't move. Not an inch. My body was paralyzed. Only my eyes still worked. Slowly, painfully slowly, I turned my gaze toward the window. And that's when I saw it crawling inside. It wasn't human. It wasn't an animal. It was something that should not exist. It moved like a massive cat, heavy and deliberate, but its silhouette was wrong. Too long, too hunched, too smooth. And the head. Sam shuddered violently. The head wasn't a cat's. And it wasn't a human's. It was something in between, or neither at all. Something twisted, malformed. The head was enormous, far too large for the body, like someone had taken it from another creature and forced it on. The eyes were round and huge, glossy like an owl's. Black rings around them like bruises. And the smell, my God, the smell. Rot and damp earth and something metallic, like blood left in a bucket for too long. It crept toward me, slow and purposeful, as if savoring the moment. I thought I would die from pure terror before it even touched me. But it didn't wait. It leapt onto my chest with a thud that knocked the air from my lungs. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even blink. Up close, the stench was so overwhelming I nearly blacked out. Then it raised one limb, its claws were long, curved, and razor-sharp. And began to tear into my face. I felt everything. The slicing. The ripping. The warm blood running down my neck. I couldn't fight back. I couldn't move. Not even a twitch. I could only pray for it to end. And then, it grabbed my mouth. With those long claws. And it tore it open. The tablecloth beneath my colleague's hands had bunched into tight folds, his knuckles white. Sam said that after it ripped his mouth, the creature hopped off him and crawled back out the window. The second it left, he regained control of his body. He bolted out of his apartment screaming, covered in blood, pieces of flesh hanging from his jaw. He pounded on his neighbor's door until she opened it, and fainted instantly. Her husband ran out, saw Sam, and called emergency services. Sam said the rest came in flashes. The ambulance. The operating room. The doctor stitching my face together, literally piece by piece. When I woke up, the police were waiting. They wanted to know what happened. I told them the truth. They sent me straight to a psychiatric ward. I spent 2 years there. When I finally got out, my sister had sold my apartment. She told me I couldn't stay with her. She couldn't bear to look at me. And that's why I live on the street. He stopped speaking then. My colleague said Sam just stared at the floor, trembling hands covering the remnants of his once handsome face. The monstrous smile the scars forced on him made it look like he was grinning, even as tears rolled down his cheeks. I left the cafe still hearing Sam's voice in my head, replaying his story in fragments, the knocks, the scream, the scars, the years lost. The sun was already sinking behind the crooked rooftops, stretching long shadows across the empty street. I walked back toward my hotel, telling myself it was just a tragic story. A violent town. A broken man. Nothing more. But something in the air felt heavier than before. Still. Expectant. As I turned the corner, the neon hotel sign flickered to life, buzzing softly. I was reaching for the door handle when I froze. Someone was standing beside the entrance. An elderly woman in a long dark skirt. A scarf pulled tightly around her head. Hands folded neatly over a small leather bag. Her posture was calm. Too calm. At first I didn't recognize her, just another older woman waiting for a taxi or resting her legs. But then she looked up. Slowly. Deliberately. Her eyes were sharp, black, unwavering. And I recognized the face from the story. The Romani fortune teller. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She didn't even blink. She simply lifted one thin, trembling finger. And pointed at me. Not at the hotel. Not down the street. Not behind me. At me. Then she lowered her hand, turned, and walked away without a sound, disappearing around the corner as if she had never been there at all. I stood there for a long time, unable to move. The hotel door weighed a ton in my hand. Only later, lying in bed wide awake, I realized something that made my stomach drop. No one in town ever described what she looked like. Sam never saw her again. My colleague never met her. No one showed me a picture. And yet I knew her the moment our eyes met. As if she had been waiting for me.